Hey sisters, nice to have you here again. And today we also have Christopher DeSanti, and he is the author of Urban Mystic, Ancient Wisdom from a Modern Day Seeker. We've been reading it the last couple of days for October, but I don't think I've really had the pleasure of telling you about this man. He is an international transformational trainer and educator of higher knowledge. He's a seeker of knowledge since childhood, and I love how he was talking about in his book, and I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert, by the way, that even when he was playing basketball, he could see the spiritual side of it. He's had teachings from Native American shamanic teachings, masters of India. He's learned from all over the world, done studying, meditations, and reflecting all on for over 2 decades. He encountered A Course in Miracles, became a teacher for it, still teaches classes to this day, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of that in the future. Hint, hint. And he's also a trainer and director for gratitude training. He has a lovely wife called Lori Reyes, and I can't wait to meet her soon, hopefully. And here he is. Christopher, say hello to the beautiful ladies in the group, please.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's great being on, Jaslyn. Thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm looking forward to talking and excited to be here with everyone.
Okay, perfect. So let's do a little breakdown here. Christopher, what inspired you to write this book? What happened?
Well, what happened? Well, first off, I've been, as you said, and I do trainings. I've been doing them for many years, and students and people will come up to me and say, have you ever thought about compiling this information and what you teach into a book? And that was going on for a lot of years. I was teaching A Course in Miracles, as you said, and a lot of teachings from India. I was combining it together. And I just, for me, I knew that I was destined to write something. And it started really simply by going home after working with students and being in trainings in my classes, and I would write stuff down. And before I knew it, I had all these like memoirs written over the course of many years. And that's how the book came about. But I knew that I could reach a lot of people. I do courses, classes, sometimes from 50 to 150, 200 people, but I could reach more people through a book. And it was born as an idea and really a request from students and people that I was working with. Yeah, that's how it started.
And what kind of, what did you write in the book that had to do with, for example, like the Masters of India? Like, what did you get from them, and how did that even start? How did you?
It's funny, I was just, and I talk about this in the book, I was a kid from Jersey growing up, and I was in a friend of mine's brother's room, and I was drawn to bookshelves. I used to read or look at the books people had, and I know that you were Dan Millman. You were talking about Way of the Peaceful Warrior. For you, that was a big book. I mean, I was reading that when I was like a teenager, and I discovered a lot of the teachings from India through Ram Dass. And ironically, how funny, when I was in high school, I got a chance to see Dan Millman and Ram Dass back to back. I cut class. How funny. I cut school one day to go see Dan Millman and Ram Dass talk. And I was a senior in high school. But from there, I started to discover, it was really the internet was just coming out. So I would drive to bookstores, and I laugh, and I would cut class to go to bookstores and read books. And then when I started discovering all the rich lineage of India, it was like, whoa. It started with Native American. Some of the books I was reading, my brothers and I, we were doing a lot of Native American teachings. We were doing sweat lodges when we were kids. And then when I discovered India, it opened up a whole world for me. That's how it started.
So out of everything that you've known, the Masters of India, the Native American, the gratitude training, what's your favorite thing? If you could just teach one thing to somebody, what is that?
That's a great question. It's, the book, Jaslyn, the book.
By the way, great.
It has what? It has a lot
of information.
Well, what it was is I took all these great modalities and I put it through my own words. Mm-hmm. Now, if I was going to state one of them, it would be like a blend of the training, which has a lot of the teachers from India's ideas and concepts, and also A Course in Miracles. I would put them together. So I gave you the easy answer for me. I want to combine two teachings, and then A Course in Miracles is a really beautiful, beautiful modality in teaching. So I don't know if I have one. I would say what I talk about on a weekly basis where I combine them all would be it for me. That's what yeah.
If you were to combine them all, then let's go with that answer then. If you were to combine them all, but there was like this one main teaching, you know how like, you know, there's over 3,000 different religions, but I forgot his name at the moment, but there's a beautiful book that has over 3,000 religions in it. And an interviewer just asked him, like, what was the one thing you learned from all 3,000 that you could, if you could teach this, it would solve the world. It would bring peace. And he said, just be kinder.
Yeah.
Or little.
Yeah. It won't be as one-liner as that maybe, but for me it would be to people, if I was going to put it in one line, it would be to wake up. To wake up.
And what does that mean for you? What does wake up mean?
It really means that we're dreaming a dream of life that for many people has turned into a dream of suffering and pain, like a nightmare, if you will. And that there's another way, that we don't have to live in suffering, that that to wake up, to awaken to the divine in us, in each of us, and be kinder is involved in that, because we start to see others the same, and that to wake up to the natural inheritance and abundance that we are. That would be my one line. That was more than a line. Something like that. Yeah.
So I know in the book you mentioned something, and I'm going to say to my own little words, of course, which is kind of like, we live in this specific perspective, right? And now you're mentioning that there's another perspective that a lot of people aren't looking at, but it's still there, right? So kind of like if we're in a negative state and there's a way to get us into that positive state. Is that what you mean by wake up? To just move us to perspective?
Yes, and I think it takes what you're saying, Jaslyn, and adds a step to it, is shifting from fear. I really, if we're talking about, in my book, I talk about this, and of course, in Miracles talks about this, and a lot of these different modalities, is that our problems stem from this idea that somehow we can be separate from life or God or source, or however you want to define it. That feeling of separation is where all of our suffering and problems come from. Mm-hmm. And it's really not true. And that when we can wake up to that and see that, we get into this flow of life where it's as though life seems to be working constantly on our behalf. Things are working out for us. When we could shift into love, into connection, abundance, that's what all human beings want to experience too. They just don't know where to look for, and they just haven't been taught that it's within us. It's in our minds. It's in the shifting of our minds into seeing, like you said, that shifting the perspective and the perception on how we see the world. And we all have that capability, all of us.
So you kind of just said it. You said that everyone is looking for that answer, and then you said that the answer is like within us. Well, why do you feel that it's so hard for people to look within?
Because they're so conditioned to look without. That it's a conditioning process of the world. If you think about it, all of us, when we were children, we had this, we came into the world and we were pure being for moments, awareness. And before you know it, very early on, we're conditioned to, I'm good or I'm bad or I'm better than others. I'm not as good as others. All this conditioning that people are taught to seek for things in the world, like, money or relationships or all these things. And those things are great, but they're never going to fill up this perceived gap in us, because there really isn't one. And we're taught that there is. And then we try to find all these remedies, like, if I could just get a little more of this, if I could just get more money, or if they could love me more, if my wife could be more the way I wanted her. And there's endless places that we're taught to look, except the one place where it can be found. I cut out for a second. The one place where it can be found is in ourselves.
Your voice didn't get cut out, so you're good. So I'm definitely one of those people, or I used to be, I used to be one of those people that would say, I want more all the time. So to those people that say, I want more, or are always looking towards, an award or something to do versus where they are, the journey that they're in, what would you recommend is like the step to get them to, let's say, the present moment, or to get them to wake up?
Yeah. And the waking up, Jaslyn, is into the present moment. It's funny you said that, because the waking up is into this present moment. I would say to them to rather than attempt to find more, because there really is no end and never enough to it. Yeah. You know, we all know. I mean, we've all gotten the new shiny object and then replaced it with the next new shiny object. We've had a level of success, and then we're already on to the next thing. You know, is to look to discover first the wholeness and the completeness of this moment and myself. Mm-hmm. To really, rather than see, there's nothing wrong with more, but if I seek after more as to try to fill myself up, that's where the suffering comes in. That's where the struggle comes in. So I'd say to people, first recognize, before you attempt to get more, first recognize that there's nothing that can add to you and there's nothing that can take away from you. Perfect. When you get that, then you could dance with life, and you're not so, you know, have you ever really wanted something so bad? Maybe it's a relationship or a person, and the neediness and wantingness, it pushes them away. It pushes it away. Yes. And when we can relax and surrender into our wholeness, our completeness, we naturally draw whatever's needed in the moment to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's powerful.
Now, if I may, I'm going to add a little connotation or note here that a lot of my women and ladies and girls for that matter, they tell me that they have a problem with money mindset. And I feel like that has to do a lot with that, because they're always focusing on, I'm broke, I'm poor, I don't have enough. And that's what they're throwing out into the world. And I've been working on teaching them that if you're whole, if you're okay, you know, with the money that you do have, right, with the present moment that you do have, you're going to get more. But the more that you have that broke, poor mindset, the more you're taking out into the world, the more you're pushing money away.
That's great. You know, what you're talking about, like the law of attraction, and this is why, and I talk about it in the book, and I love the conversation around money, because it's a conversation for myself that I've done a lot of work in transforming, and I know that I've transformed it because abundance shows up in these areas of my life where before it would be like, what if I don't have enough? And that idea, Jaslyn, of not having enough stems from I'm not enough. And it's there's an ingrainedness in all of us. Even people, I know very rich people who still have a broke mindset. Yeah. They might have money in their bank account, but they're broke in their relationships. They're broke in, you know, the way that they feel, their level of fulfillment. It's all scarcity. And for abundance to show up, we have to challenge and take on the perceived scarcity in our own minds and our own hearts, and see that it's not really real and it's not really there. That the universe is an abundant universe for us. And people get to learn that and discover that. Yeah, and that's the key. And that's why I think money is a really powerful domain for everyone, because it brings up a lot of our lack, a lot of our how we see ourselves, our identification. So if we can really master that conversation, then we can find the abundance in ourselves and then have it show up all around us. That's totally possible, like you said. Yeah.
So what is your definition of abundance? Because you hear the word abundance a lot, but I don't know how many people would say, like, I am abundant.
Yeah. Abundance. It's abundance is the recognition that I always have enough in all areas of my life. There's always enough. There is plentiful. I'm constantly, abundance is, I'll give you, you probably heard of this, the paranoia. Everybody knows the definition of paranoia is like the universe or people, the world, life is against me. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you've heard the opposite of paranoia is pronoia, which is the universe is constantly conspiring in my favor. I feel like abundance would be a richness, and I don't mean money. I mean a richness in my career, my health, my joy, my relationships, my level of fulfillment, the richness and enoughness in that in all areas of my life I would classify as abundant and abundance.
Interesting. So in my definition of wealth seems to be your definition of abundance.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. I'm liking that. I'm going to go back to the book a little bit because I want to tie these together here. In the introduction, you ended it by writing the sentence, and by the way, none of what I say is the truth. And that T was capitalized. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's simple in the sense that nothing that I say or anyone says is the truth, because it's all a matter of perspective. And here's the thing. I can only use words that are symbols of thoughts, which are symbols of something.
Mm-hmm.
We use, it's like pointing at the moon. You might have heard the analogy. The finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. All of the concepts and distinctions in my book are all pointers. They're not the truth. Some people could agree. Some people could disagree. What I would say the truth is, with a capital T, is what no one can agree or disagree on. And I don't mean to sound cliche. None of it's the truth, because you, the reader, are the truth. You yourself, your beingness, the light of consciousness that we are, is the truth. And that's beyond a concept. That's because it's what gives the light to concepts. It's what gives the light to what we think. It's like the pure being, that flame of existence, of aliveness. It's where the universe expresses itself through you. That's the truth. And that's beyond any concept. It's beyond agreement or disagreement. It's really the existence itself. So everything that we talk about is never really it. We're using concepts and ideas to communicate, and we do our best with it, but it's never the thing itself. Does that make sense?
No, it kind of, I just had a moment of when you said that. So I'm trying to break that down for a second so everyone can have the moment. How would you say the truth is different than, for example, like a fact? Because there's things that the universe knows, but we may not know. Or I'm trying to see how we would explain this some more.
Yeah, so the truth with a capital T, we're talking about like the divine truth, the truth of the self of what we are. That's this universal truth. And I totally understand that when we talk about a fact, we could say that that's true. Like, hey, in a court of law, this is a fact.
Yeah.
But the capital T truth really brings to it a higher conversation about the truth of existence, the truth of who we are. And what I'm saying in the book is that nothing that I'm saying is the truth. It's a concept. It's all concepts. Everything we read in books is concepts. Yeah.
There you go. That's what I wanted to hear. And
Awesome.
So we got to the point.
Okay.
So this divine truth. Now, your main thing is urban mystic, ancient wisdom from modern day seeker, right? How did you get to the title of that book, and how does that connect to, the entirety of it? Because the entirety of it, it's your stories. It's tons of essays that you've been writing for how many months, years?
It's years, probably. I've been probably 4 or 5 years. I compiled a lot of those essays.
You've been writing these essays for 4 or 5 years, and then you put it together in a book.
Yeah.
That's
how it came about.
Am I not there yet? Did you write that down somewhere that it took you 4 or 5 years? Because that's mind-blowing right there.
I don't know if I did. I'm thinking about it. I don't think I talk about 4 or 5 years in the essays. I don't. I just say that they've been compiled over time, and if you look at some of the essays, you could see, like, when the riots in Baltimore happened, people asked me to write about it. When the shootings in Orlando happened, then 2 years ago, my nephew was born. So the essay spanned for me over some period of time. So I think the reader gets an idea that it still is over a course of some period of time. I don't know that I say exactly 4 or 5 years in it. Yeah.
Did you put them in any kind of order? Did you put them through dates or?
No, I did put them in an order. And my wife, my beautiful, amazing wife, my wife's a breath worker and a therapist.
Cool.
For many, many years. And so she's been, she's come to my class. She's taught breath work at my class for years. So she supported me, and we started compiling order of them. And, I start with some basic distinctions. We talk about honing in the body. And then, towards the end, we're more of the political ideas. And, when I talk about my nephew and my father passing away, those are more towards the end. So there's a culmination of, some of the deeper works in the middle, some of the ones that you really get to sit with and be with. And then at the end, were all the short clips. So the short clips would be, let me write something on something as simple as making promises. I run gratitude training. I support my wife. We run another company together. So I've always been an entrepreneur, and I'm not really just about theory. I want things that can work for people, because what I write about has worked for me. And then the title of the book and how I came about it really came to me one day, was Urban Mystic. Well, I grew up right outside of New York City. I talk about playing basketball. I feel like the product of an urban culture. Mm-hmm. I also grew up in New Jersey. I grew up on the outskirts of a little city in north central New Jersey. And so I've always been around that environment, city life, Manhattan. I mean, I spent so much time in the city in my life, and I still go up there. I was doing a training in right across from Madison Square Garden about a month or two ago, up in Manhattan in August. So Manhattan's very close to my heart, and going through Manhattan, it's such an urban culture. And when I say urban, I mean that really, when you think about it, that everything has been processed by us as human beings, our minds and what we can build. And, there's a lot of high buildings and fast pace. And then the mystical part was, as a kid, I've been so drawn to these teachings of ancient wisdom. And I said urban mystic, ancient wisdom from a modern day seeker, because I'm not really interested in being a guru or a teacher like that. I've been around a lot of gurus, and it's not really for me. I feel like a brother to people, like a bit older brother on the path, and this is what, from a kid from Jersey and my own interpretations, and someone who, when I was going to India, I didn't even know anyone that went to India. I didn't even know, what I even needed to do. I wasn't even really clear on why I was so moved and connected to these teachings. So it's this ancient wisdom from a modern day seeker, because that's how I look at myself, as this more modern day. I didn't grow up in even the 60s, the 60s or even 70s. I was born in 79. So that to me, it's more of I'm a newer voice in terms of old ancient teachings. And that's how I feel.
So you really got these ancient wisdoms from these Native American and Indian cultures, and you are putting it in this book in simple, lame terms for people to understand, even themselves, in this modern day world. And that's the whole concept of the book.
That is, yeah.
I'm loving it. Okay. So I'm about halfway through the book, and I did it on purpose because I know that before the interview, I tend to do spoiler alerts. I've learned my lesson.
That's cool.
I'm like, Jasmine, I'm not there yet. So I'm like, okay, I got it. So I'm halfway through. By our next interview, which is we have it on the 15th. So we have 5 days more. We're going to go really into detail on the next part of the book. And then on the 22nd, we decided on, we're going to talk about the finished copy of the book, the whole empanada. Okay?
Awesome.
Perfect. So that's for everyone else to know as well. I feel totally complete. So Christopher, is there anything else that you would like to add or say to the girls before we leave?
I am honored to be with all of you and to share this. It's something very close to my heart. And thank you, Jaslyn, and love your energy and enthusiasm. And I'm happy to be here with everybody and to share in this. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, no, definitely. Thank you for saying yes to being here with us. So we have 2 more calls with Christopher DeSanti. They will be on Facebook Live. They won't be on Zoom this time. So get ready and have your questions and answers, or questions, ready to go. And he'll have his answers ready to go for you in the next couple of Facebook Lives. So thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Bye, everyone.